We just, as a group, we wanted to come out and say thank you to everyone who's worked so hard to make this happen. We're obviously grateful for the outcome today. It's not a happy occasion, but it's something that we can put, one more step behind us. We're all going to move on with our lives, and we're all going to get back to some sense of normalcy, hopefully, when this is all done. So closure, I guess, I don't think so, only because it's forever a part of our life.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, reaction from the survivors and the victims' families to the guilty verdict. 30 counts, guilty on all of them. The Boston Marathon bomber yesterday. Joining us now, once again, is Professor Alan Dershowitz, of course, Newsmax contributor, author of Terror Tunnels, The Case for Israel's Just War Against Hamas. Alan, welcome back, sir. What do you think the next step or the rest of the life of the convicted terrorist will be? Will he get the death penalty, or will he get his life in prison?
Well, it was Yogi Berra who once said that prediction is very, very difficult, especially about the future. Right. But I was a Brooklyn Dodger fan when he played on the Yankees, so I'm going to venture a prediction. I think that Tsarnaev is going to spend the rest of his life in prison and will die in prison, not as the result of execution. In order to get the death penalty, you have to convince 12 Massachusetts jurors, all 12 of them. If one holds out, there's no death penalty. There's life without possibility of parole. I think that's the most likely result. Even if they manage to convince 12, they have to then get past 3 judges in the Court of Appeals, then an en-banc Court of Appeals, then the United States Supreme Court, and then the possibility of a presidential commutation. So the likelihood that he will actually be executed is fairly slight. In fact, some of the victims, you were talking about the victims, I know some of the victims. Being from Boston, from Cambridge, we all know people who are there at the finish line. Some of the victims who are thrilled at the conviction, when pressed, will say, we really either have no opinion on whether he should be executed or we're opposed to execution. And some of them cite Ted Kennedy's famous letter when his brother was killed, not seeking the death penalty in that case. So there's a strong feeling about the death penalty in Massachusetts. The Archbishop, the Cardinal of Massachusetts, a great man, has come out against the death penalty, and many in Massachusetts abide by religious convictions of the Catholic Church or other churches and religions which are opposed to the death penalty. So I think it's a long shot, but it's possible. This is the most gruesome, grievous crime. If ever a crime deserved the death penalty, it's this one. And I have no sympathy for this defendant. I don't buy his notion that, he was influenced by his brother. He was an adult, and he has to take responsibility for his own conduct. But there may be other mitigating circumstances that we're not aware of, and the jury will hear.
Right. Now, so you painted a picture with appeals and a possible presidential pardon. But as far as the jury, do you believe that the jury will say yes to death?
I think most of the jurors will.
But it only takes one, right?
All you need is one.
Yeah.
And it's not a it's usually if you get one juror or 2 jurors, there's a mistrial. In these kinds of cases, if you get one juror, they just impose life imprisonment with no possibility of parole. And I'm sure that Judy Clark, who's a great lawyer, is already focusing on which of the jurors she's going to look at. I'm told by Boston reporters that when they lost 4 or 5 of the jurors just the other day, the judge had to decide, by random, which ones are going to sit on the jury and which ones were alternate jurors. They lost what appeared to be some of the most pro-defendant jurors, so they may have a jury that's tougher for them than they had anticipated. But I think trying to find just one will be a possible task. But, I make the prediction with caution because you never know how a jury will behave.
Let me ask you one more on this before we move to Iran real quick. If this were Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and it was a trial on 9/11 and he was found guilty on 30 counts, let's say, do you think the jury would
Yes.
think the same way?
No, I think the jury would impose the death penalty, and I think, in fact, if Tsarnaev's older brother were on trial, the jury would impose the death penalty. What I think she's going to argue is, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you had before you both Tsarnaev brothers, what you would probably do is sentence the older one to death, but the younger one not to death. The fact that the older one is not here shouldn't change that view on your behalf. Also, ask yourself the following question. If the older Tsarnaev brother had been killed 5 years ago in an automobile accident, would the younger one be here today? The answer to that is probably no. That's going to be the nature of the argument she's going to try to make.
Right. Okay. The Iran deal, or whatever you want to call it, the framework. You know, when Iran speaks out, they say it's different than when Obama speaks out. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, which deal are we talking about? If we're talking about Iran's version of the deal, of course, I don't think a single United States congressman or senator would sign on to it. If you're talking about the president's version, it depends on which day of the week. The other day, the president said that within a certain number of years, there will be zero constraints on Iran's ability to make a bomb. And then the State Department tried to walk him back on that. We don't know what the deal is. Anybody today who would sign on to this blank check or this, pig in a poke is being irresponsible. We have to know what the deal is. We have to know what happens after 10 years. Is this a green light after 10 years? That's the way I read it. I also think the Fardo area, which is clearly designed only for nuclear weapons, must be shut down.
I couldn't agree with you more.
And MIT professors have said that if it's not, it will reduce the number of months to 2 or 3.
Yep, that's not good. Alan, great to talk to you, sir. Congratulations again on the vindication. Appreciate you coming on.
Oh, appreciate that
All
so
right,
much.
Alan Dershowitz, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stay tuned for your Max to Money moment, but first, we have brought back, and we'll continue to bring back, our viewer call-in segment here on the Steve Malzberg Show. So if you want to talk to me for whatever reason, like a talk radio show. However, you can't just call in when we're doing it like on talk radio. You have to let us know in advance. Contact us in advance. Contact us by emailing us at callsteve@newsmax.com. Call Steve at newsmax.com. Include your topic, your name, your phone number, where you are, and someone on our staff will get back to you. We want to hear from you, but you have to let us know where you are and who you are. Call Steve at newsmax.com.